A year and a half ago, I decided to give up smoking. I've been a smoker, I suppose, for 10 years near enough, 20, sometimes 30 a day. Well, one Sunday afternoon, I walked down this street, went into that house, and met a man called Alan Carr. 3 hours later, I came out a non-smoker. His method worked for me. It doesn't for everybody. This, though, is his story.
When he was an accountant, he used to be a chain smoker.
Today, it's his customers who do the chain smoking, as they become hooked on a philosophy which says giving up cigarettes isn't a sacrifice, it's a liberation.
I remove the fear, just fear that keeps people smoking. It's not they enjoy it so much, it's just they're so miserable without them. They think they're always going to be miserable without them. And I make them realise that they won't, and I make them realise that they can do it, and that they'll enjoy life more once they're free, that they won't miss them. I take that fear away.
Smoking, he tries to persuade you, is not a genuine pleasure, but only the relief of pain. The pain of the craving for a cigarette, which addiction to cigarettes caused in the first place. Soon you're invited to break that vicious circle by smoking your last ever cigarette and symbolically leaving your addiction behind. Finally, he tells you to close your eyes and imagine not that you're trying to give up smoking, but that you have given up smoking.
When you see other people smoke, you won't envy them. You'll pity them for the sick, pathetic addicts they really are. You'll watch their dull eyes and grey expressions. You'll listen to their wheezing and coughing. You'll watch the filth going into their life. You'll listen to their phony arguments. And you'll see the fear and depression that lies beneath them.
Welcome back. Our thanks to Jane Asher. And if you've enjoyed her this Sunday, and you want to see her again next Sunday, there's a terrific show next Sunday night at the Prince of Wales called 2 Acts of Love in aid of children with leukemia, children in hospital with leukemia, and Jane's taking part, and it's new material written by people like Tom Stoppard, specially written for the occasion. That's next Sunday at the Prince of Wales Theatre. Now, we would normally have said goodbye to the great Lord Jameson, but we asked him to stay with us this morning, but because we're going to be talking now to Brenda Dean of Sogat. Good morning, Brenda. And to Alan Carr. Now, Alan Carr is going to be talking in a minute or two about giving up smoking, and Brenda's going to be talking about giving up whopping, I think. On the front of this book, The Easy Way to Stop Smoking, by Alan Carr, who's here, it says, in this small type here, it says, after 40 years of smoking, I was converted on the spot. This book really works. Derek Jameson.
Aha, that's me. Yes, well, of course, we've got to do everything humanly possible to stop people smoking. It's a filthy, rotten, disgusting habit. And what happened, I read Alan Carr's book purely by chance. A listener sent it to me. I read it, and it was so simple. It was none of the mumbo-jumbo, just common sense.
And it worked for you?
And he stopped me smoking, yeah, after over 4. I was smoking at 7 years of age. Well, I just thought, the man's right. I mean, it makes sense.
But what did he do? What did he do for you?
Well, he spelled it out just how bad smoking is for you, and how there is no sense, there is no logic, there is no reason. And the key thing he said that really went home to me, he said, they talk about nicotine addiction, withdrawal symptoms. Listen. You go to bed at night, you sleep for, 7 or 8 hours, you have breakfast, you light a cigarette. Every single day, you go 8 or 9 hours without a cigarette. If you've got the flu or a chest cold, you don't smoke for 2 or 3 days. So what's all this about addiction and withdrawal symptoms? You do it every day of your life. You're not climbing up the wall. I thought, this bloke's very clever. That makes sense to me.
Well, there you are. That's an unsolicited testimonial, Alan. What is the most important thing about you? Have about an 80% success rate, it says?
My latest figures are over 90% as far as one's able to tell, yes. And anybody can do it and find it easy.
And it's not just willpower?
No, it's the complete opposite to the normal method of stopping. In fact, most of the people that read the book and come to my method don't actually understand, because, you see, the normal willpower method is to concentrate on the bad side of smoking. Now, all reasons for stopping actually make it harder to do it. They make you want to do it, but they don't help you. It's a bit like slimming doesn't make food less precious, it makes it 5 times more precious. Now, the cancer scares our intelligent mind say stop doing it, but we smoke, among other reasons, when we're feeling a bit uptight. That's when we reach for a cigarette. And if you tell smokers it's killing them, the first thing they do is light a cigarette. All reasons for stopping make it harder for two other reasons. One, there's always this feeling of sacrifice. We're always being forced off a little prop, a little pleasure, whatever reason we think we're smoking for. The other reason it makes it harder is it creates a blind. We always concentrate on why we shouldn't smoke. Now, we know we shouldn't smoke. We've known it all our lives. That isn't why we do it. Now, my book first goes to the other side of the tug-of-war, to look the cigarette squarely in the face and say, OK, I know there's a lot against it, but why am I doing it? I didn't need them before I started. Millions of people have never bothered and lead perfectly happy lives. And millions of people are now stopping and also leading perfectly happy lives without them. What makes me think I have to go through this nightmare of paying through nose to choke myself? And of course, nobody does. There's no such thing as a confirmed smoker. Anybody can stop it. And it's basically fear that keeps us smoking, this belief that we'll never be happy again, that the social occasion, the stress situation. But all those so-called pluses from smoking are in fact illusions. Now, what my book does is to explain the other side of the thing, to realize that, you see, smokers think they enjoy smoking. But you say to any smoker, if you can't get your brand, you can only get a brand you find distasteful. Do you stop smoking? No. And I enjoy lobster. I never got to the stage where I had 40 lobsters hanging around my neck. And one of the stupid things about smoking, we spend half our life smoking the things, wishing we did. The other half in situations where we're dying for a cigarette and being punished because we're not allowed to have one.
So someone says basically to you, comes to see you or whatever, and says, right, I want you to give me the strength or whatever to give up smoking. What specific practical things do you instruct the person to do?
Well, I make them look at what they're getting out of it and make them realize that, in fact, all the things they think they're getting out of it are, in fact, illusions. That the main thing is fear, this belief that they won't be happy again. I make them realize that not only will they be just as happy, but infinitely more so. And I don't just mean healthier and richer, enjoy life more. Now, the normal method of stopping is to say, right, on day one, if I can go long enough without one, the urge to smoke will go. But of course it doesn't. In no time, it's all the only precious thing on the earth is a cigarette. In other words, on the willpower method, the smoker stops smoking first and then waits for the craving to go. Now, if somebody reads that book, it explains all the mysteries of the smoke. It's like a Rubik's Cube.
But how does your system help me as compared to that?
Well, at the end of the book, instead of being somebody being forced off the cigarette, you're wanting to be a non-smoker.
But at the end of the first day, does someone who comes to you for a session not crave a cigarette at the end of the first day?
Their body will be craving nicotine for a few days, but that is so slight. That isn't wanting a cigarette. They stop wanting a cigarette. In fact, in other words, you see, the actual enjoyment in a cigarette, it's just like banging your head against the wall to make it nice when you stop. What you actually enjoy in smoking is the ending of the craving for nicotine. Now, once you stop seeing that craving, or the ending of the craving, you see, there's like a hunger isn't a pleasure. Ending a hunger is. And you create a hunger, in fact, for poison. But once that feeling, that sort of tense, uptight feeling of wanting a cigarette, the smoker sees that as the cigarette curing it. Once you realize it's the last cigarette that's causing it, then it's like coming out of the dentist the last time. There's a slight aggravation, but it doesn't worry you because you know you're going to be free. And then you can go back to the health, the social side, the money. Instead of being something forcing you off your prop, your bind, they then become powerful positive gains to help you achieve what all smokers really want to achieve, which is just to enjoy the whole of their life free of the slavery of the weed. And as I say, anybody can do it. They find it easy to do it. You're looking at what was the biggest idiot of all times, and there was another one, he thought he can be free. And the people I come to, many of them have seen other hypnotherapists, they've had acupuncture, they've done the Nicorette chewing gum, and I can cure any of them.
And Derek,